we will start off with a wide-legged hamstring stretch. It's exactly what it is and how it sounds. Take a big wide stance with your feet. I like to take way more than a shoulder width, maybe double. The wider you can go, the better, in my opinion. Shows that you're a little bit more on the flexible side. And then from here, all we're going to do is push our hips back and place our hands on the ground. You can always bend the knees a little bit when you do this. So if you lock out your knees and that's just a little bit too tough for you, always can bend the knees. There's no real wrong or right way to do it. Find what works best for you. And all we're going to do is hang out here for 1 minute total. If you need to take a break and it feels a little bit uncomfortable, just pop out of that position. If you're here and it's just a little too much for you, stand up for a second, shake it out, go back down, accumulate 1 minute. All right, so let's go. I got a 1 minute on the timer here and let's get started. As you're going through this stretch, you might relax a little bit more into it and you might be able to go further into this stretch, and that's totally cool too. It should never hurt. It should maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable. You can feel that stretch and you know it's working, but it should never be too uncomfortable. Make sure you're breathing, and we'll shoot for 1 minute. I love this stretch. This one just feels so good for me. Breathe, maybe sink a little bit further down. If you need to bend the knees, you might even get a better stretch in that hamstring if you bend the knees. Going a little bit further down, 15 seconds to go. Sink a little bit further for those last 10 seconds. Feels so good. 5 more seconds to go. All right, so 1 minute total on that wide-legged hamstring stretch. We're going to kneel down in a half kneeling position. All that means is one knee on the ground, one leg out in front. We're gonna work on these hip flexors. Worked a little bit of the back of the leg. Now we're gonna work the front. And let's concentrate on squeezing the glutes here. Squeeze the butt. That's gonna help bring that lower back into a more neutral position, and we're going to get a little bit more of an effective stretch on the front part of the leg and into that hip flexor. So lose that low back arch. So if we're looking like this, let's try to tuck the hip under so it's a little bit flatter, better stretch. And then from there, squeeze the butt, shift forward. Whew, feels tight, but it feels good. So we're gonna do 30 seconds here, and then we're gonna revisit this later in the session. So let's put the timer on for 1 minute. If I can figure this out. 1 minute, 30 seconds, we'll switch it up. All right, here we go. So tuck that hip under, feel that quad hip flexor, shift forward if you can. If you can't, that's all right too. Breathe. And then I always like to think like if you're wearing a big belt buckle, the belt buckle is always pointing a little bit up or forward, okay? Make sure it's never looking down. We're gonna do 1 minute on each side actually, all right? 30 seconds, just a little too short here. So keep that tucked under, breathe. If it ever feels uncomfortable, all you have to do is back out of the stretch. Make sure you're breathing, hip flexor. Woo! 10 seconds to go. All right. And let's switch it up. Switch sides. Same thing on this side. Tuck the hip under, squeeze the glutes, shift forward. 1 minute. Here we go. Hip flexor is always important. Usually if something's going on with the hips, something else in the body is happening too. That kind of makes the rest of the body a little bit worse. So we always want to make sure we're keeping good care of the hips. That's probably why you see a lot of kind of hip work in my videos. Well, that is the reason why. Good, sit up nice and tall here. Fun fact, your hip flexor, one of your main hip flexors, attaches from your leg to your low back. Good, 20 seconds to go. 15. Good. Almost done. All right. 1 minute each side, half kneeling hip flexor stretch. We're gonna stand up for this next one, and we're gonna do a standing side bend. I've done a tall kneeling version of this, but now we're gonna do it standing. So we can take about a shoulder width stance here, and then we're going to squeeze the butt again. One arm's out to the side of your body, one is up over your head, and then you're just gonna slide this arm down the leg and then side bend. So again, the key concepts here is shoulder width with the feet, squeeze the butt the whole time so we have a nice stable lower body and we lose that arch in the low back. One arm by your side, one arm up overhead, slide the hand down the leg, get that good side bend all the way down here, the stretch from the lats, the arm down into your low back and down into your hips. 10 reps each side. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, good, 6, 7, a little bit of a dance, 8, 9, and 10. Let's switch it up. Opposite arm. Good. 1. Good. 2. 3. Keep the butt tight. Good. 4. 5. Good. 6. 7. Good. 8. 9. And 10. 10 reps, standing side bend. And now we're gonna jump over to the wall here. We're just gonna open up the pecs a little bit. Let's get back here. And all we're gonna do is place our arm. You can do this in a doorway, and then you'll just turn away. Just make sure your shoulder is always pulled down and back as you're running through this, all right? So just 30 seconds here, very quick on this one. All right, so here we go. Let's get that stretch going. Elbow is about shoulder width height here. Good, breathe, chest out, turn away. There we go. Really good stretch on the pecs. Always great to open up the front of the body since we're always hunched over, or most of us are always hunched over. Good, 30 seconds, 2, 1. All right, cool. Let's pause that real quick and let's go over to the other side and let's get it started. 30 seconds. Good. Shoulder pulled down and back, chest out, turn away. Good. About 12 seconds to go. All right, so pec stretch up on the wall, and that's it for the mobility exercises and stretches. But as always, we must finish it up with a strengthener. If you remember earlier in this video, I was talking about the hip flexor and how we're gonna revisit that later on. Well, we're gonna revisit it in the strengthener section, and we're gonna do a half kneeling hip flexor isolation, an ISO. So let's grab our pad again. So what we're gonna do is we're going to get into that starting hip flexor stretch position. So we're in the half kneeling position. One leg is back on the ground, one leg is out in front. Remember, keeping that low back, not arched, but flatter. And then usually we would just shift forward for the stretch, but now we're strengthening it. I want you to hover this bottom knee up just a little bit off the ground. We're gonna do reps here So we're gonna concentrate on tucking the hip under. I'm gonna just place my hands on my shoulders just so you can see the whole body. And then from here, just gonna up, and then come back down. And then concentrate on making sure when you lift up, your low back doesn't arch. We maintain the positions as we come up. If that's too difficult for you, give it a shot and see how it feels. You can do less reps. We can just hold it for a second, just hover. You can always just play around with it. When we lift our whole knee up, we're using our whole body weight. You could also just push your foot into the ground and just slightly hover it. I mean, that's pretty good too, and I'm still working on that hip flexor, all right? So find what works best for you. I'm gonna hover for 1 second, drop it down. We're gonna hit 10 reps, all right? It's really important to strengthen the hip flexors, not just stretch it out, all right? Here we go. Let's put the arms out in front for this one. Good 1, good 2. Keep that hip tucked under. 3, it's almost like you're crunching your abs. 4, good 5, good 6, 7, come on, keep going. 8, 9, last one. Whew, that is tough. Let's switch legs. Show it from this side. So again, remember, tuck hip under, squeeze the glutes, keep the butt tight. 1, good, 2, hold it. 3, 4, 5, almost done. Good 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Man, my quad is burning, my hip flexor can feel it. It's feeling stronger already. 10 reps each side hip flexor iso.